Hey guys, I just want to take this chance to, come out today. I've transitioned to a non-binary person, they, them, Korean Jimin, and I finally have the Korean look, so I'm actually really happy. In 2021, we can all have these different identities and we can love different people freely. I identify as Korean, that's just my culture, that's my home country, that's exactly how I look now.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. So I just started drinking coffee and I feel like I'm about to have a panic attack. Like I'm bugging. And you're about to be bugging as well. So anytime a trans related story is blowing up in the media or blowing up on Twitter, Instagram, etc., my DMs subsequently blow up along with it because you guys let me know any and every small or large happening in the trans world, which more often than not ruins my day. I'm sure you've seen this story. You've heard of transgender. Hi. You've heard of trans age. You've heard of trans species. Ladies and gentlemen, I now introduce to you trans Korean. Suddenly I need Jesus. Sorry, Rachel Dolezal. There is a new transracial in town by the name of Ollie London, a social media influencer who I believe is British. Wait, did I just miss nationality him? Ironically, it was right-wing Twitter that really blew this story up. So this guy's had surgery to look Korean, very much snatched, very much pulled, although I don't really think that makes you Korean. I mean, honestly, he looks like half the bitches I see walking around Beverly Hills every day, but, do you? He's also announced that his pronouns are they, them, Korean, Jimin. So aside from having Korean as a pronoun, how are you just gonna identify as a whole other person that already exists? Isn't Jimin someone who is like in some K-pop band or something? Do not come for me, K-pop stands. That's not the point. He's identifying as a whole other person who already exists. The audacity. Lies, fairy tales, and fantasies. So anytime transracial comes up, as it did with Rachel Dolezal, as it is with this person now, the conversation on social media turns to, well, how is transracial any different than transgender? How can you change a gender but not change your race? Seems like it's all bullshit. And there's just a bunch of comparisons, and I'm here to address all of those. I want to talk about that, but first let's get into Ollie's coming out video, which I'm sure is going to be stunning, brave, and all things like this. I wish this was alcohol.
Hey guys, I just want to take this chance to, come out today. Something that's been on my mind for a long time, and I've been very confused about how I identify. I've been very, very confused. And, I've seen a lot of other people online that have come out and been very brave about it and shared their story about how they identify, their gender, their pronouns, etc. So, I've taken courage from these incredibly brave people, and it is Pride Month at the moment, so, I thought this was the best time to do it. My pronouns are they, them, Korean, Jimin, because I know a lot of people don't understand me, but I do identify as Korean, and I do look Korean now. That's exactly how I look now, and I also identify as Jimin. That's my Korean name. Nobody would do this for attention. Nobody would go through this much pain, this much suffering. I've had 18 surgeries in total for the last 8 years. Nobody would do that to themselves for attention. I'm doing this because it's how I identify, it's how I feel. So I just want people to please be respectful in the comments, please be respectful online. As I said, I'm non-binary now, so I can be addressed as they, them, Korean, or Jimin.
So before I drag him, I do have to give him kudos and say he did put more effort into becoming a different race than a lot of people put into becoming another gender. So you know what? On that level, respect, honey. Just saying. Just saying. And you know it's true, so don't even get mad. You know it's true, you just want to be mad at me. You want to be mad, but you know it's true. So Ollie himself is running with the narrative that him being transracial is no different than being a transsexual, because I'm sure that's the feedback he's getting, so he's running with it. So he's tweeting, being transsexual is the same as being transracial because you were born in the wrong body. I mean, the troll is top tier. The troll is top tier. But the funny thing is, the woke mob, there is a lot of backlash from the wokies. It's not like they're supporting him or being like, oh, this is amazing, you really did change your race. But they don't actually have any argument for how it is different than transgender. I think it's different than transgender, and I know I can effectively argue that it's different. and not valid. However, that's because I'm not the idiot who argues that race is a social construct or gender is a social construct. I don't think either of those things are. The same people who are arguing that race is a social construct are saying that he can't become a different race, and that doesn't really make any sense to me. So as much as woke people are attacking him and saying that he's not valid and that transgender people are valid and he's not, they have already burned every single bridge they could have crossed to logically defend trans people and effectively stick up for trans people in this scenario. They can't do it. Because, of course, when you're against gatekeeping, you have to accept every identity. If every identity is valid, then you do have to accept that identity. However, I do believe in gatekeeping, so I don't. The difference between transgender and transracial and what backs up the validity of transgender is multi-pronged. Science and history come to mind. Transgender people have gender dysphoria, which up until very recently was classified as a mental disorder, but it is recognized in the DSM-5 as clinically significant distress or impairment related to a strong desire to be of another gender. So this was throughout history labeled as a mental disorder, or I guess I should say history as long as we recognized the existence of gender dysphoria. And apparently it's not politically correct to refer to it as a mental disorder anymore, which is kind of ironic to me because the same people who are offended by calling it a disorder or a condition or whatever you want to call it are the same people who say that you have to destigmatize mental disorders. So which is it? If there should be no shame behind acknowledging something as a disorder, then why are you so offended by people calling it a disorder? I don't think it's insulting to call anxiety or depression a disorder. But okay, we'll play by your rules. Just for the sake of appeasing you guys, we'll play by your rules for this one. So you have gender dysphoria. There is already no equivalent for that when it comes to race that can be diagnosed. But you also have male and female brain structural differences. And there have been numerous MRI studies that have shown that trans women can be born with similar not only brain activity, but brain structures, physical structures, to that of biological women. But of course, because trans activists literally only know how to shoot themselves in the foot and remove all credibility toward trans people and the movement, they are against these studies because they believe biological sex doesn't actually exist and we shouldn't show differences between men and women in the brain. Everyone with common sense, of course, knows there's a lot of differences. Does that make a trans woman a biological woman? Does that mean that if a trans woman transitions, that makes them 100% a biological woman? No, not at all. What it does show is there's a biological vehicle to take someone into feeling or experiencing gender dysphoria. And again, there's no equivalent to that of race. And the sad thing is that all of those studies were halted once they became politically incorrect, even though everyone knows in their heart and in their soul that there are differences clearly between men and women in the brain. It's only common sense. It's only what you can see if you've ever left your fucking house and observed human beings. But hey, we're at the point where we're not even allowed to say that men and women are physically different and can compete in each other's sports leagues, and there's no problem with that, right? So both of these things do give validity to the existence of trans people. I'm not saying it makes a trans woman a biological woman. I don't think that over here. But I do think that if people were to understand that it is a biological reality for a certain segment of the population, people are able to understand that and able to get past that. But what happens is when you erase the science of the existence of trans people, this is what you get. It really isn't any different than being transracial because there's no science behind being transracial. If you don't need gender dysphoria to be trans and gender is just some performance, then that reduces it really to the equivalent of being transracial, which is just a performance, which is just this guy getting his eyes slanted. And the only argument you're left with is feelings. And sorry, but no one gives a. The second prong is history. There is no history of transracial people or transracial communities. There is, however, the existence of trans people throughout ancient history going back thousands of years. Does this mean that the current incarnation of what we know and see trans to be with advanced surgeries and advanced treatments and hormones, is that what's always existed? No, of course not. There are ancient Sumerian texts going back 4,500 years ago that recognize that there were people that struggled with their gender and did their best to embody the opposite gender. There is no community of transracial people. Outside from a few trolls and grifters that get a lot of attention for this, it's not like there's some like community of transracial people and history of transracial people, and it's just not a thing. So when you have no science to back it up and you have no historical precedent to back it up, it's just not the same thing. And it shows that one of them is found in nature, one of them just isn't. Now here's the other component to this. I get attacked so often on this platform and others for being a gatekeeper, for refusing to join the all identities are valid, you don't need dysphoria to be trans, you can go ahead and get trans surgeries without any diagnosis crowd. I'm not part of that crowd. And they attack the hell out of me online, which is so stupid because literally any healthy group of people gatekeeps. Gatekeeping is what keeps MAPS, minor attracted people, from joining the LGBT community. Gatekeeping is what keeps people from flying planes that don't know how to fly planes. But yet and still, you'll still see people within the trans community attack me saying, Blaire White's a gatekeeper, and so, as if somehow that's a bad thing. I am a gatekeeper. I don't want to be associated with the likes of Jessica Yaniv, Rachel Dolezal, and now Mr. Trans Korean, although he is funny. You really can't say shit about this guy being a non-binary Korean if you've ever argued that shit like race and gender are social constructs, when everyone with even a shred of common sense, and again, has ever observed the world, can see that they are at the very least heavily influenced by biology, and at the most completely influenced by biology. Ollie is simply trolling you with your own rules. Not all identities are valid, but it's become so politicized and so tribal, and trans activists have taken it so far that this is what you get. Like, I get attacked by the trans community for criticizing trans species. I'm not kidding. I will talk about trans speciesism, and I'll get comments from the community telling me that I'm wrong because that's valid. They've argued themselves into such a corner they can't even properly defend trans people, which is supposed to be their job. So have fun with it. It's sad, but have fun with it. I cannot believe this ridiculous trans Korean story made me go that deep. That is it for this video, you guys. Make sure you subscribe to this channel as well as my second channel. I'll put an annotation somewhere on the screen for you to do that. Follow me on Twitter and Instagram, not TikTok because I'm banned. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye, guys.